Speaking of World Rugby, they decided to put out a little bit of an announcement that they're going to be making some new changes to the game. Going to make some new changes to the game out here. And the changes are going to be basically, we're going to try and speed up the in-game process so that it can make it more entertaining and applicable for the fans. Now, there's something that's really interesting to me about this. Let me kind of go into a few of the things that they're going to be changing this year to make it more palatable for fans. Even though, as I know they're doing it because they are worrying about the competition with Rugby League. Australia is losing big to Rugby League. Like Rugby Union in Australia is losing big to Rugby League. And if you don't remember, after 2021, Australia actually needs to take a $440 million bailout plan.
Y'all, my bad. It was only 27.5 million. Still a lot, but not 440 million. I just wanted to make sure that was corrected.
Basically, to just save the union because it was in so much debt and it was so heavily about to shut down after the pandemic because they're held together with spit and band-aids. But rugby league and Australian football are like the biggest hitters in Australia right now. And I think you're starting to see a little bit of a creep. Here in the US, I feel like you're starting to see much more of a crossover of people doing rugby union and rugby league. Rugby union has the brand. It has the brand. And the brand stands strong. But when you have a lot of poor decisions, the brand is getting weak. It's getting weaker, And big changes need to be made. And I think rugby league is starting to see a little bit more of a populist rise, like really similar to soccer after the World Cup in the U.S. And everybody, I know the World Cup was very big catalyst for it, but I think it's in that area where it's like, okay, we're existing. This might be more palatable for crossover athletes. This is better for former football players. Like, these are where we get the U.S. market and start building up our market share. And if we can win the U.S., the rest of the world will follow. And irregardless of whether people want to believe it or not, like it's something that I think they're now really, really worried about. So they're just like, okay, bet. Here's what we're gonna do. All right. One of them is we're gonna make the kick time. It's going to be 90 seconds. You got 90 seconds from the score to get into position to kick the ball. All right. So them dudes, that's going to change out how you're able to recharge your energy, because a lot of times those kicks, not only is it about eating a little bit of clock, but it's also about catching your breath, especially if you're the scorer and the kicker, like a lot of fullbacks often are, a lot of fly halves often are. This is going to be one where it's like you scored and then you got to run back and you got to do a quick set. So the quick rapid, I actually don't mind this rule. Even the penalty kicks have got to take 60 seconds. This is one that's going to mess up a lot of people because this is one that is, again, a clock eater. We're trying to eat the clock. There's the teams forming the line out without delay, which means, again, clock eaters where you're just holding. Actually, these rules I don't mind. I actually don't mind some of these. Ones that I'm not so big on is like fewer water carrier interventions. So basically, they're reducing the amount of times that there can be a water break, which makes sense in Europe. But if you go into these kind of hotter countries, like if you go down to Australia or South Africa in November, December, January, February, where that's usually just about test match time. I mean, it's hot. It's hot there. You need these water breaks. Like in Europe, of course, during freaking Six Nations, that's in February or February and March for men and women respectively. Like that's still their cold time. Like springtime for that, like I'm not a big fan of that one. Like, I understand to limit it in terms of creating delays or having injuries or prolonging something because of the water break. But you should be able to get what is necessary. You should get what's necessary and catch it by what the field judge is providing and what is being requested, and not off of some arbitrary rule on that. You can I love penalizing negative player actions, holding players, stuff like that. That one, part of the game, but I look at that in the same guise as flopping. Sometimes it's just unnecessary. I'm glad they are. No, they're going to be penalizing more players with hands on the floor to support their body weight. Look, I get some level of dangerous play, and I'm hoping to some extent this is a dangerous play maintenance of staying on the feet. But, the game is faster. Like, you're literally speeding up the game. That means there's more momentum happening. I know there's control, but, there's more momentum happening. And there's a whole bunch of these. But it's just like, I get it, but I also never felt like the issue of rugby has been what is on the field. Again, man, I got to stop being like anti-World Rugby because it's really starting to become anti. I do think they have a purpose. I just don't think that they're very good at necessarily leveraging what their strengths actually are and really over-leverage their weaknesses. But in this situation is the weakness in you're not creating the element, or you're not promoting the element that needs help, which is the actual storytelling. And it's ironic, you guys, just let you know, I'm dropping 2 movie reviews over the course of this next week. No Woman, No Try, and then Everybody's Game, which basically speaks to this as a whole. And I'll check that out whenever you have a chance to get the review and watch them out. But it's basically like, you're not doing enough to either focus on the personalization of the players and create actual stars because of maintaining the traditional values of what rugby is supposed to implement, which the two don't actually have to be in contrast. But then the other thing is like creating the storylines behind them. Why are other sports like soccer, basketball, American football are able to create such dynamic engagement with their audience? Is because they spend relentlessly on storytelling. Relentlessly. I mean, it's storytelling in the off season. It's storytelling in season. It's storytelling in the game. It's storytelling before the game. It's storytelling after the game. It's breakdown from all these individual sources. It is simply like we're watching a constant reality show. And now we're just coming to it, which kind of starts to piss me off. This is going to be a gripe. I'll talk about it at the end, but with USA Rugby, it should have been the first header on this. But it's part of the reason that people don't have the engagement, because you haven't created the buildup. You just talk about the traditional stuff. Well, this stat and that stat and this player in terms of this team, and then even the contracts and players re-signing and going to here. Like, these are things that add to the value of what the story is to make it more dynamic. There's a reason why in American football we know the salaries of players. It's not because it's publicly traded companies. Like, we actually have no reasons. The individual teams are private organizations, even if the NFL as a organization is a public organization. And then obviously other than the Green Bay Packers. But these are private organizations. You don't have to tell players' salary. But why do you tell players' salaries? Is because it adds another dynamic and stake into how they play and to what we perceive as their value for the team. For World Rugby, as you continue to try and become this media hub and attempt to be a better marketing machine, which, again, you really shouldn't be going there, but do that, you need to promote the idea of being better storytellers. The in-game stuff solves itself. More athletes, more engagement. We don't want different people, a little bit of show of parity with at least one big monster to always have to slay to justify and power gauge. Like, I'm talking like this is an anime, and that's what's basically happening. So whenever you're talking about like making changes in the game itself, I don't. I mean, these are minute things. Like, people care, but the only reason people care is because there was not enough buildup to why the individual game needed to matter. Like, this is, come on. Come on, man. Come on, man. But I'm interested. We'll see how this end up playing out. I mean, Rugby World Cup is going to be the highlight of 2023. Rugby World Cup 2023 is going to be the highlight for how these games are going to end up playing themselves out. So, we'll see what happens from there.
For a while I lost my smile, but they still couldn't steal my style. Now they're never gonna bring me down.